Okay, so welcome to Patron Reviews, the first of what I hope will become a series of at least a couple of episodes or more, depending on how long it takes me to get bored and wander off again, where I show you some gameplay as well as give you my impressions of whatever game I've been playing recently. And today I'll be looking at Aeronautica. This is a relatively new game, still being an alpha, and it's from the same guys as Neo Warfare X, so if you've played Neo before, playing this is going to feel real familiar in terms of aircraft handling and the basic, small model style of the game. But I'd say that's where the similarities end. Whilst Neo is a combat simulator through and through, Aeronautica is what I'm calling an open-world aviation business flight simulator, because categorizing games is hard. Aeronautica offers really quite a huge amount when compared to the amount of attention it's been getting. Like, seriously, this game is well polished, and I'm talking like acceleration levels of polish. Blows games such as Plane Crazy, Flightline, and even its sister game Neo completely out of the water. The game starts off with a really well done tutorial sequence that teaches the basic controls as well as the basics of the game's economy, and it does it all just really cleanly and efficiently. With the game being at such a small scale, it means that the map can be just stunningly huge. And I mean, like, PTFS's entire map could fit inside just one of its islands. I tried to cross the largest island in a C-130, which is not a slow aircraft in a game where airships and ultralights exist, and that took like a whole hour. So basically that plane lives on that side of the map now because I cannot be arsed flying that thing home. The majority of players will be found in the early game archipelago, but with later game aircraft giving you the speed and the range to move out further, you'll soon find yourself over the desert and snowy islands, as well as the huge continent to the east that seems to be based off of Europe, being covered with British and French towns and cities. Being relatively local to the area, it's really cool taking off from Heathrow and flying over a miniaturised London, set with the London Eye, O2 Arena, Shard Skyscraper, and the London City Airport. It's a game that just really looks good. Street lamps turn on at night, highlighting the roads below as they, snake their way across the countryside. Several layers of clouds provide much needed texturing to the sky, and just the hills, fields, woodland, deserts and mountains all just give the terrain below lots of diversity. Staying on topic of the map, one thing the game doesn't tell you is that it's also littered in crates for players to fly around and find. They are, pretty hard to find, especially before you get used to what kind of places they're bound to be, but they contain parts for rare aircraft that you can only attain through this treasure hunting method, making this side of the game a really cool side gig, especially when you realise that you can trade these parts with other players. The whole point of the game is to fly jobs, make money, and progressively buy better and better aircraft, starting with an ultralight that's barely able to fly past its own backyard, and ending up with a supersonic airliner, able to cross the map in mere minutes. Aeronautica is grindy, and with a gameplay loop consisting primarily of takeoff, fly to place, repeat, broken up occasionally with flying around randomly in free flight, or trying to increase your flying hours in a training aircraft, this is the main thing that puts people off playing. I'm not going to deny that the long flights are dull, but I also think that it gives the game much more of an idle appeal. Something to be left on in the background as you watch YouTube. That's how I personally think the game is meant to be enjoyed. It's much less social than the likes of PTFS, and not as realistic as games such as Flightline. And yet there seems to be just a large amount of players, myself included, that still enjoy the game. And I think it's this idle tycoon nature that makes it so addicting. It's like Retail Tycoon, but for aircraft enthusiasts, if that makes sense, and gives me the same vibe as Drive Blocks Unlimited, if anyone still remembers that old game. The game's aircraft are really diverse, actually. Airliners are arguably the best way to make money, but you're no way constricted to them. I personally went down the route of military cargo planes, and with them you get a whole bunch of different missions such as storm chasing, cargo drops, or even just secret cargo flights across the map. But then there's also seaplanes, fighter jets, historic bombers, even hot air balloons if you want to take the whole long flying thing to a whole new level. But only the passenger and cargo aircraft will make you any real money. Speaking of which, one server I was in did have one guy fly across the entire map in a blimp, which took him like 7 hours or something really crazy. That earned him a ridiculous amount of money, so shout out to that crazy guy, but that's taking the game to the extreme, even if it is a testament to the game's economy system. The last thing I want to just briefly touch on is the way you buy aircraft. Specifically, aircraft can only be bought from specific airports, so when I decided that I wanted to invest in an A400, I learned that I had to fly across the entire map over to the European continent. An hour of flying later, and I found a big fat out of stock sign. I'm not entirely sure how the stock system works, but from what I gather, every 10 minutes or so, some aircraft get new stock, and the rarer the aircraft being how unlikely it is to stock back up. But my issue there is that it can become incredibly frustrating to attain specific aircraft. I hopped through like 5 different servers in order to get my A400, and that's not even that rare of an aircraft. Once again, you can buy aircraft from other players, but you just have to be lucky enough to find someone who wants to sell that specific plane. Would I recommend Aeronautica? Well, I think it mainly depends on the person. I absolutely love it, and it's a more advanced game by Roblox standards. But that's going to confuse players that are used to the simplicity of PTFS or Flightline. But by regular game standards, it's still really simple, and something that can be fully picked up and learned in pretty much its entirety in well under an hour. It's a gorgeous game that controls well and really makes you want to push for that next aircraft. But I do understand that many players won't find it to be worth the time that has to be put in order to attain these. If the game does sound like something you might enjoy, then by all means I encourage you to try it. It's Roblox, so after all it is free. And I think with that just about wraps everything up. I do hope you enjoyed this new style of video. Do be sure to tell me what you think about it in the comments, and of course tell us what you think about Aeronautica. I really do want to hear what you guys have to say about this one. And with that, I think that's everything. Thank you very much for watching. Nothing else to say, but Patron out.